If there were awards for catching someone in an affair, I'd be a strong contender. I used some clever tactics to reveal my wife's deceit. Everything seemed fine between us as we prepared for a trip together, but as fate would have it, it was a real light bulb moment. My private investigators in town told me that Larry had a set routine, so I decided to check out the Thursday evening happy hour scene at a trendy bar in Greensboro, where Larry was known to frequent. I arrived promptly at 6:10. I was looking forward to seeing him, even though I knew it was going to be difficult. I found myself in a glass of bourbon, trying to get used to my new reality in the busy atmosphere of the bar. I was watching the surface of the bar until I saw Larry's reflection. In the long mirror, he had already joined his friends, a tall beer sitting in front of him. Larry, a tall and alluring figure, appeared considerably younger than my 51 years, boasting a fit and athletic build, complemented by his blonde hair, blue eyes, and impeccably chiseled features. It's evident why my wife, Alice, I found him appealing during her frequent business trips to the corporate office in Greensboro. My private investigator efficiently gathered crucial details. Larry had joined the company 2 years prior, holding a directorial position in the marketing department, similar in rank to Alice's role in sales. The collaboration on projects and frequent joint travels to visit clients spoke volumes. I refrained from launching an extensive investigation, as Larry and Alice inadvertently provided substantial evidence themselves after. Finishing my drink and settling the tab, I traversed the lounge and positioned myself near their table. I noticed there were 5 men and 2 women in the group surrounding Larry. I went over and said hello. "Hi, Larry. I'm Logan Parson, Alice's husband." I started suggesting we have a quick chat, but Larry seemed a bit confused. He looked a little worried. "Hi, Logan. Nice to meet you. What brings you to Greensboro?" I asked if I could have a quick private chat with you, Larry. "I know you're here with friends, but could we find a moment to talk?" I pointed to an empty booth at the back as the lounge filled up fast. I said I'd only need 15 minutes if you could spare them. I went over to Larry's table and sat in a booth, keeping an eye on him. He finished his beer and ordered another one pretty quickly. Then he came over to me with a confused look on his face. He said, "I don't understand why you flew all the way to North Carolina just to talk to me. It would have been much simpler to call." I said with concern, "I want to meet the man who's been having a sexual affair with my wife." I responded quickly and directly, making Larry think twice before he could respond. "It's not what you think," he said, but I just laughed. "It's exactly what I think," I replied. I managed to access the cloud server. "Based on the server, you and Alice have the videos now." "I have copies of all 15. Larry appeared even more shocked. Instead of answering, I pressed on, asking how long this has been going on. "I'm not sure." He admitted it had been going on for about a year. 4 of us went on a trip to Alley to yacht Clevand. Alice's computer battery died, so I let her use mine. She somehow stumbled upon a fetish site that I frequently visit. "Well, Larry, that just goes to show how clueless I was." I remarked to Riley, "I thought the affair lasted." Larry took about 5 to 7 months to come around to the idea. Alice was really interested, so he told her all about it by email and in person. But there was still a lot of tension in the air, and we were both lost in our own thoughts. "Our thoughts, Logan. She loves you. You know that, right?" Larry's words broke the silence, and I nodded in agreement. "I love her too. That's why the divorce is going to be so difficult." I confessed. Larry's voice rose in disbelief. "Are you serious? You're going to divorce her over?" I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my decision. I deserve better than a dishonest, unfaithful wife. I stated firmly, my frustration evident in my sigh. "I want to call her. I love her, uncertain if the label fit, but I'm not sure if her actions qualify her as one. However, they do qualify for a divorce." A heavy silence settled over the table, lingering longer than expected until Larry finally broke it with a question. "Logan, what are your plans for the videos?" "I don't want to harm Alice," I replied wearily, feeling suddenly drained. "I just want to leave the bar now." I told him I had an early flight home the next day, and that he'd left for New York that morning and would be back tomorrow afternoon. I said I'd have a chat with Alice then. I looked at Larry and said, "Don't you dare tell Alice anything you say is wrong. I'll find out if you do, and those videos will be shared with everyone in your life." I finished the rest of my whiskey, spilled it on the table, and went to my hotel. Alice and I had agreed to take 2 holidays together a year. Our next one was going to start in Vancouver, and we were excited to explore the Pacific coast, heading south to San Francisco with stops in Seattle and Portland on a Friday. I got a rental car for the trip and first-class flights to Vancouver and from San Francisco. While I was making the hotel reservations, I noticed the first signs of Alice's affair. Al and I often traveled for work, using we had accumulated airline miles, hotel points, and car rental rewards to offset vacation expenses. We also had a welcome pack from our business travel that helped ease our holiday costs, although we had always had enough points to cover our travel necessities. I was taken back when I realized we might need to pay for 3 or 4 nights at the Marriott for our upcoming vacation. It didn't add up, considering that a list like mine spent approximately 100 nights away for business. There should have been enough points for 10 Marriott hotel nights during our I checked Alice's calendar, which we share because we travel a lot, and saw she'd only been away for 64 nights in the last year. I logged into her Marriott account and saw she'd stayed at a Marriott property for only 47 nights. I felt uneasy, wondering where Annis had spent the other 17 nights. When I cross-referenced her calendar with her Marriott rewards points, I realized she hadn't made any hotel reservations. When I visited the corporate office in Greensboro, I felt a knot in my stomach. For the first time in almost 26 years of marriage, I found myself questioning whether Alice might be having an affair. I'm someone who typically tackles problems head-on, but I wasn't prepared to continue my investigation at that moment. Instead, I briefed my personal assistant on my schedule and left my office. I needed to head to the gym for an early workout, so I informed her. I changed into workout attire in the company locker room and jolted too. I went to the nearby gym, spent 55 minutes lifting weights, and then jogged back to the office after a quick shower and change. On my way back to my office, I ran into Grace. "Logan, you have several calls to return, and something personal has come up. I need an hour or so to sort things out. Is that why you left for the—" She asked why I was at the gym so early. I told her I needed to sort something out, and she offered to help. I nodded, and she passed Grace and closed the door to my office. I couldn't help but shake my head, sensing her surprise at the depth of my sorrow. I settled at my desk, and the tension resurfaced immediately. Just seconds later, my phone rang. "Grace, I just said that I needed to apologize. Hunter wants to speak with you throughout my entire professional journey. Hunter and I have been close friends and colleagues, as the company's president and the founder's son. He has served as my mentor, guiding me as I climbed the corporate ladder. I became his trusted associate, holding the position of vice president of sales and marketing. I released a heavy sigh and apologized for my earlier outburst to Grace. I asked her to connect the call once I picked up. Hunter inquired why I wasn't taking calls and what was going on. I replied that I needed an hour, and that we should meet at 10:45 I suggested, but he said that wouldn't work. "I'm arranging a quick meeting about the long-running issue, and I need your input." I was really annoyed and on the verge of exploding. I pleaded with him, "Hunter, just give me until 10:45, I need to deal with a problem." There was a tense pause, then Hunter agreed. "I'll meet you at 10:45. I was nervous as I carried on looking into this. Both our companies use the same online expense report software. I checked all of Alice's expense reports from trips over 2 years. Most of her trips were to places east of the Mississippi River. About a third of them were to the Greensboro headquarters, with the rest in various other cities. All her travel expenses, including hotel rooms, had been charged. She'd been using her corporate American Express card until 7 months ago, but after that, there were no hotel charges on any of her trips except those to Greensboro. I looked at the info again, and I just had this feeling that something wasn't right. It felt like my world was unraveling. Then I had a moment of clarity, and it all made sense. Lots of companies were cutting costs. Some companies were also controlling their expenses for employee accommodation during trips to the corporate headquarters. Some were even paying the hotels directly at discounted rates so they could keep the points for future employee visits. That's when it hit me. That must be what happened to Alice's Marriott points. I thought about it for a few minutes and then accessed my computer's contacts file. I searched for the individual from Alice's finance group among the 37 contacts. I managed to track down Aidan Powell, the director of finance, and left him a voicemail. I thought I'd give Logan, Alice's husband, a shout too, as we've crossed paths a few times at company events. I'm reaching out to various company finance professionals to see if there's a trend of shifting policies to save costs by directly paying for hotel accommodation. Our finance team is considering this change. I'm not sure I agree with that though, as I think our people should still get something out of the hotel points. I'd be grateful if you could call me back and leave me your number. I then went to Hunter's office for our meeting. As soon as we started, the tension eased up and I was able to focus on what we needed to talk about. Hunter looked a bit confused, but I just shrugged in response. In just 25 minutes, the sales, marketing, finance, and operations teams had agreed on a way to resolve a week-long issue. We've had a long-standing issue with the Long brothers. They're one of our Hunter's demeanor shifted as the meeting drew to a close. "Stay back, Logan," he said, once the room was empty and the door was shut. "What's going on?" I let out a sigh and Hunter gave me a moment to collect my thoughts. I was feeling pretty stressed out, but I just managed to avoid a heart attack. I was dealing with some. I told him it was about my kids. He asked if it was work-related. I said it was personal. He asked if it was about Alice. I said it was about an hour ago. I was convinced she was having an affair. I feel foolish because I believe I've identified the issue. I'm waiting for a confirmation call. Hunter had a smirk on his face. He shook his head, looking at me with a smile on his face. "Alice is devoted to you and would never be unfaithful, so stop entertaining foolish thoughts," he advised firmly. He motioned for me to leave. Grace, who had looked concerned earlier, now wore a smile as she noticed me passing by her desk. "It's good to see you back to normal," Logan said. Grace said as I got back to my usual routine after quickly checking for urgent emails. I pressed the play button to listen to my voicemail. Dan Powell had called back. "Hi, Logan. To hear from you. We haven't seriously considered paying directly and keeping the rewards points yet. I did some research, and although it would save us around $7, I've heard it could cost us up to 13 times that amount in lost employee time. I agree with you, it's not a good idea. I hope this information helps," Aiden concluded before signing off. As his message ended, my desktop picture of Annis flew across the room and shattered against the wall. I quickly packed my computer into my briefcase. Grace looked back and forth between there was a broken picture on the floor and me from my office doorway. "Grace, I'm taking the rest of the day off. Only contact me if there's an emergency. If Alice calls, tell her I'm in a meeting and cannot be disturbed." I'd already told her that before walking out without waiting for a response. It had been a challenging day at work. Here's a story from Alice. My Friday morning began when Logan left for the office at 7. I closed my home office at 3:40. Feeling pretty justified. That afternoon, I decided to go to the gym an hour earlier than usual. I felt a bit mischievous and in the mood for a change, so I opted for the stair-stepper for my cardio workout. I was aware that a group of young men was visually appreciating my 49-year-old body. As I climbed the moving stairs in my leotard, I felt a rush of excitement thinking about the possibilities with these 3 college jocks. My mind started to wander, and I imagined what it would be like to have them over for a daydream. I knew my intimate life was pretty extraordinary. We still had physical intimacy 3 or 4 times a week, and I usually climaxed 2 or sometimes 3 times each time. Oral actions played a big part in our intimate moments. We often ended up in a 69 position. I would take in his impressive organ while he explored my sensitive lips with his tongue. I liked how he stimulated all of my sensitive areas with his fingers, creating pleasurable sensations. After our 69 session, Larry would position me on my knees, lower himself onto my thighs, and initiate penetration from behind. His considerable length, especially in girth, combined with my own stimulation of the sensitive area, was a particular favorite. He always started slowly, making sure I was comfortable as he entered from behind. Once he was fully inside me, he would thrust passionately, satisfying my preferences as he released his climax deep within me. I often stimulated myself from the front, resulting in explosive sensations. Additionally, my thoughts were drifting towards my upcoming trip to Greensby. Most of my preparations have been completed, and I was anticipating a hectic schedule. Meetings were scheduled to commence just 2 hours after my arrival, and I would be working tirelessly until departing for home at noon on Friday. I was scheduled to start just 2 hours after I arrived, and I'd be working hard until I left for home at noon on Friday. The only break I'd get would be in the evenings with Larry. I'd have to spend most of my day at meetings, including ones with him, and then I'd have to spend my nights with him in bed. I knew I'd be having a lot of fun with him over the next few nights. I was happy to have reached a point where I no longer felt guilty about my nearly year-long affair with him. My long affair with Larry involved only explicit activities. I couldn't involve my husband in the kind of depravity I experienced with Larry. It became my private indulgence, fulfilling a twisted sexual desire I hadn't known existed despite leading a fulfilling life as a wife, mother, friend, and respected professional. Being with Larry allowed me to explore a newfound primal need that was completely hidden from my normal life. I discovered this perverse desire unexpectedly. During a while on a business trip to Cleveland, Larry booked a suite for us to work on our projects after hours. After finishing our preparations, Larry invited me to dinner. However, I realized I needed an extra 20 minutes to finish some tasks for other clients since my laptop battery was running low. Larry kindly lent me his laptop, and I quickly completed the work. Not feeling particularly hungry, I decided to check the delivery status of items being shipped to our home on Google. I typed fee into the search box, expecting to see axe. I was surprised to find a series of links leading to Fender websites. I'm not very experienced and wasn't sure what to make of it. I clicked on the first link and found videos featuring women dominating and humiliating men. I was shocked to discover that Larry watched that kind of video. At first I felt embarrassed, but as I watched several clips I found as I watched the videos, I became aroused. I excused myself from the meeting and went to get a drink. I excused myself again, saying that I would have room service deliver my dinner. I barely touched my food. I pulled up a series of Fendom websites on my personal iPad. Soon enough, I was undressed from the waist down, stimulating myself while watching a mature woman instructing a young woman. I was surprised to find myself getting aroused by the idea of performing explicit acts. Logan was great at oral sex and was happy to explore my boundaries, and the sensations were always pleasurable. I wasn't sure whether my typically masculine husband would be comfortable with the explicit language used by the woman in the video. I realized it was time to stop. I needed to stop using the Stairmaster. Thoughts of the emails I had exchanged with Larry, the three boys staring at my bouncing buttocks, and the anticipated intimacy with Larry later that night filled my mind. I felt a strong desire to hurry home to take care of myself and shower before dinner. Story by Logan. As I stepped into the house on Friday night, it was nearly 7. Alice was clearly upset. "Where on earth have you been?" she demanded. I responded apologetically to my displeased wife. "Sorry, I got caught up in a work issue and lost track of time. I sent you 6 texts and left 3 voicemails. Why couldn't you have at least responded? Your dinner is probably overcooked, so it won't be very appetizing. No worries, I'll grab some Chinese on my way back in a few minutes." As I left, Alice seemed like she wanted to say something, but I couldn't catch her words before the door closed. I had a meal in my home office and tackled some tasks that had accumulated in the afternoon. However, my primary focus was waiting for Anis to retire for the night at 8. She popped her head into the office. "Are you planning to join me in bed soon?" she asked. "No, I need to resolve this issue first. I'm not sure how long it will take." I sensed Alice had more to say, but she simply said goodnight after an hour. I checked Alice's office to make sure she was asleep. I then went in and got her laptop before moving it to my office. I found the notebook in the top center drawer of Alice's desk. It had her work placement-dated monthly password changes for accessing their VPN email system and various other business software applications to avoid forgetting. Alice loved each new password in the notebook and couldn't reuse the same one for a year. It took me no more than 25 minutes to locate what I was searching for. The emails were stored in the folder was labeled Larry Jenkins. The most interesting emails were mixed in with business emails as I looked through several months of private emails. I was shocked by the details of Larry's and Alice's moral decay and perversion. Their explicit descriptions covered 17 nights of debauchery in their charge emails. Each new revelation felt like another knife twisting in my gut. A couple of days ago, Larry sent an email with a URL he'd set up. He told Alice that all their videos were stored on a secure, undisclosed website and were protected by a password, which he gave her when she accessed the site. I had an idea of what would happen because of the disturbing details in their previous emails. I was wrong, though. I saw my wife as the CO star in each video. The star in each video was a nightmare, but it proved her bad behavior. Glancing at the clock, I saw it was 20 minutes before midnight. I was amazed at how things had turned out. This is the story by Alice. My life took a turn 16 hours ago. I was trying to make hotel reservations for our upcoming trip. What a weekend. Logan was busy tackling air runs around town, sticking to his usual weekly routine of yard work, although we could have easily hired a lawn service. Our usual late lunch was delayed as Logan kept finding new projects to occupy his time in the yard. I was surprised when the delivery service arrived with some supplies later in the day, right after they left. Logan arrived with 3 new apple trees. "What's going on here?" I asked. "We've discussed adding more apple trees to the backyard. When do you plan to complete all of this? Are you going to spend any quality time with your wife this weekend?" "I'll be away most of next week. You haven't suggested any plans, so I thought you wanted to save your energy for your trip." I was taken aback by Logan's response, and for a moment, a twinge of guilt washed over me. However, reassured that my secret about Greensboro was secure, I replied, "I'm arranging dinner reservations. Please be prepared to leave at 6. An hour before we were due to leave, I got a bit worried when Logan came into the house complaining of a bad back. I asked if there was anything I could do, but he just said, "Cancel the reservations. Let's have pizza instead." So I did, and he was really happy with that. I got a pizza and an India Pale Ale from a local brewery, which is one of his favorite beers. When I got back with the pizza and beer, I couldn't believe what I saw. I found Logan was already in bed, fast asleep. Sunday turned out to be just as challenging as I had anticipated. I'd planned to enjoy some of Logan's renowned morning delight, but he had risen early, an hour before I woke up, and was already engrossed in his outdoor projects as I emerged from bed. I spent the entire day grumbling, but he persisted in his work, which was incredibly frustrating. Logan continued his efforts in the backyard until nearly 7, by 5:00 in the evening, I'd put together a tuna salad sandwich and was ready for bed. Monday morning brought more frustration. As soon as our alarm went off, I turned to find Logan was nowhere to be seen. I got up, threw on my robe, and started looking for him, but he was nowhere to be found. I was even more confused when he finally replied to my text almost 15 minutes later, saying he was at work. I was worried Logan might be upset with me, so I racked my brain. I was looking for any mistakes I might have made, and I thought about the unusual lack of intimacy over the weekend. It was very unusual for us not to make love at least twice over the weekend, so I decided to try to reignite the passion. I sent Alice a text message with some leading questions to try to get our love life back on track. "I can't wait for some intimate moments tonight." An hour passed with no response, so I sent another text. "Addis, afterwards you can choose between my tight little by mid." By the afternoon I was really frustrated. I couldn't understand why he was ignoring me. We'd often had some of our best moments after sending each other naughty texts during the day at work. I made one last attempt. "Alice, how about you come and have dinner with me?" His unexpected reply caught me off guard. He said he'd be working late that night. I tried to reach him 3 times in the next 30 minutes, but his voicemail picked up each time. I sent another text to Logan Annis. "I'm leaving on a 3-day trip tomorrow morning. I'm looking forward to seeing you back at 6. By 6:30 p.m. I was feeling pretty upset. I knew I'd still be annoyed about what had happened in the last few days, so it was unlikely we'd be able to have a proper catch-up when Logan got back. I decided to vent my frustrations on Larry by sending him some detailed instructions via email. I was sure my words would get him in the mood, making our upcoming week together the most enjoyable yet. But as the clock passed 6:50 p.m. with no communication from Logan, no calls, texts, or responses to my inquiries, I thought, forget him. I completed my packing for the week and loaded my briefcase. I got into my car and suitcase, feeling pretty angry. I turned on the TV and got more and more annoyed as the news came on. I decided to go to bed, as I wasn't going to respond to Logan in any way the next morning. I was pleased to find Alice asleep when I got home. I wasn't worried about facing her anger, as I was looking forward to dealing with it. It had been a long day at the office. I'd arrived early and stayed late, determined not to fall behind in my work after a 2 After a 2-hour meeting with my new divorce attorney, Vanessa, she gave me a list of things to do while Alice was away. We had talked about hiring a private detective, but we decided that the explicit videos I had copied would be enough. I went to bed, feeling like it might be the last time with my strange wife, whom I call Alice. I woke up 15 minutes ahead of our alarm. On Tuesday morning, I got ready for work quickly, showered, got dressed, and left for the office. I felt emotional during the drive, but Alice's first text made me smile. I could see the steam from my phone. "Alice, I don't know why you're treating me this way, but it's unbearable. You didn't join me for dinner like I asked. You didn't wait for me when you came to bed and left without saying goodbye. I'll be away for 3 days, so we need to talk when I get back on Friday evening. I was hoping for an apology and a wish for a good week. What's going on with you, Logan? I've got work-rated meetings, customer calls, and emails to deal with on top of everything else. I found myself managing the preliminary tasks associated with our impending divorce. I put together a list of our shared accounts to settle and cancel credit cards and other debts on Thursday. Whatever remained would be divided between us, since the house was in my name before I met Alice. I kept the ownership, but I also had a second mortgage on the house. It was solely mine. I got some movers in I asked them to help me clear Alice's personal belongings. The plan was to deliver everything to her parents' garage on Thursday. I changed the locks on the house and updated my insurance policies to name my children as beneficiaries. I also updated my will and other legal documents to exclude Alice. On a nice Tuesday evening, I spent some time planting hops in my backyard garden. It would take about 2 years for the plants to mature and start bearing fruit. After a late dinner, I went to bed and fell asleep by 9:20. When I woke up early on Wednesday morning, I turned on my phone and saw a bunch of messages from Alice from the night before. This was the first time since we met that she hadn't called while I was traveling. She said, "Please reach out to me. This can't continue. We need to have a conversation." Another message came through an hour later. It was from Alice. She said, "I'm pleading with you. Please give me a call." Then another one came through. It was from Alice. She said, "Don't shut me out. Please explain what's happening." As I read the messages, I thought about whether she wants to know. I suppose it's time to share with her the issue lies with Larry Jenkins. While I was thinking about this, I felt a moment of anxiety. But that feeling quickly went away when I realized Logan couldn't possibly know about the real extent of my affair because of Logan's peculiar. Over the weekend, I decided to play it safe and book a room at the Marriott in Greensboro. I was really eager for the emotional relief that only Larry could provide, but I understood it wasn't worth risking my marriage. I decided to wait until my upcoming trip to our headquarters next month before I had any further escapades. I called Logan on his cell, and he was really happy to hear from me. I was surprised when he answered. "Good morning, Logan. I'm confused. How does Larry relate to the way you've been treating me poorly?" Logan and I spoke to each other multiple times a day, unaware of that. Logan chose not to keep prompting me to step in. "If you're referring to our dinners together, it's going to upset me. I understand that you have business dinners with women frequently, but it's never bothered me before. I've never been worried about your dinners with Larry or anyone else." "Then why did you mention Larry as the cause of your behavior?" "My behavior changed when I learned about your involvement with Larry. I'm not involved with Larry or anyone else." "Have you been intimate with Larry?" "I've never been unfaithful to you." I had Logan, which intensified the pain in my heart. I pleaded with Alice. "Promise me, Alice. Promise me you've never had any involvement with Larry." "Of course I promise. I swear I've never had any intimate relationship with Larry Jenkins or anyone else. Let's talk tonight and put this week behind us. I love you, Logan." Logan signed off with his usual, "I love you too," as I hung up the phone. I was sweating and my heart was pounding. I couldn't fathom why Logan would suspect me of having an affair. My only assumption was that someone from work might have perceived Larry and me as too close, or I'd been having too many dinners with Larry, and he'd probably realized that I'd narrowly avoided a crisis. I decided to limit my after-work time with him and never to spend the night at his place again. I also decided to restrict myself to one dinner with him after every call with Alice, during which she fed me lies. I wasted no time. I accessed the cloud platform. I used a platform that lets you store videos in just 7 minutes after a call. I picked my top 3 favorite clips of what they did. These ended up on Alice's Facebook page, along with a new password. The first video showed Alice in a leather bodysuit that showed her breasts, genitalia, and buttock. Larry was naked and on his knees on the floor with his hands tied behind his back. Alice was shouting at him. Wells began to appear on Larry's buttock as the clip concluded. The second video depicted the unclothed pair engaging in unconventional doggy style. Alice wore a strap-on organ, while Larry assumed a hands and knees position. Injuring her, he made penetrating remarks. The third one was recorded in his backyard. Pow! Larry lay unclothed on his back while Alice stood over him, straddling his prone body shockingly. My wife let out a stream of urine that repeatedly splashed onto his face as she instructed him, "Drink my yellow liquid, you worthless person." I couldn't help but wonder how many of Alice's 195 Facebook friends would witness her behavior. Exiting my hotel room, I bumped into my coworker Mary in the lobby. Realizing that my conversation with Logan had caused us to fall behind schedule, I was taken aback when Mary, who is usually very prim and proper, asked me what was going on. I was even more perplexed when she said, "Your Facebook page, those awful videos of you and Larry." I asked her what she meant, but she insisted that I come with her, Alice, to a secluded corner of the lobby. She pulled out her laptop and showed me my Facebook page. As I watched, I realized she was right. Mary selected. I came across a video I didn't recognize, and in the next few seconds my world fell apart. In under 15 minutes, my son Tom was the first to call. When he answered, I said, "Hey bud." Thomas responded, "Dad, something strange is happening on Mom's Facebook account." I interjected, "I know, Thomas. I have Mom's passwords and I posted the videos." "Oh crap, Dad," he replied. "That's harsh." "I expect Mom will delete the post quickly," I said. I said it was going to be challenging. Thomas asked what I meant. I told him that I'd posted the videos and changed my mom's password so she couldn't access her page. I said that I'd had enough and was going to divorce her. Thomas asked if I could ask him for a couple of favors. I said I could, and then he asked me to call my sister. I think she's not watching the videos, but I'll let her know what's going on and give her a call. She'll need some support. I'll do that. "Dad," Thomas said a few moments later. Thomas watched those videos. It's bad enough that her mother and I saw them, but her kids didn't know what to say. I'm not very good with Facebook, but Alice told her mom that she can't access her accounts, so she can't remove the videos. Apparently, her password got changed. He added, looking at me with sad eyes, "Logan, it would mean a lot if you could take those videos down from Facebook." I had always liked Noah, considering both my in-laws. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm friends with Alice, so I went to her page and deleted the 3 files from Facebook pretty quickly. I looked up and asked Noah, "Can Alice stay with you when she comes back? I know we'll have to talk, but I'm still processing it. I'll meet with you sometime." He nodded in agreement before I had finished. He asked if I had any long-term plans. I replied, "Yes, Noah, I do. I think you know me well enough to understand what needs to be done." Noah's eyes welled up with tears as he confessed, "Yeah, I divorced her too." What a mess. Our meeting took place on a Saturday afternoon, 3 weeks after Alice's return. During our one phone conversation, she pleaded with me, "Logan, we agreed to meet and talk." But I needed some time alone. Despite my request for space, Alice kept urging me to talk. She even involved our kids' families and friends in the middle of the second week. Finally, I reached out to her via text. I suggested we meet in the backyard on Saturday at noon for a conversation. Alice sent me loads of messages, saying she was grateful for the meeting and that she loved me and wanted to fix things. I quickly skimmed through them but didn't reply until Alice arrived on Saturday. I went to Bernie's Deli and got a Cobb salad for her and a turkey club for myself. Even though I thought about getting a 6, I asked Alice to pack for me and a bottle of wine for Annis, but I decided against it, thinking alcohol wouldn't contribute positively to our discussion. I arranged the lunch on our backyard patio past your table and waited for Alice at noon. I heard the doorbell ring, but I stayed seated after the third ring. I spotted Alice approaching from around the corner of the garage as she walked towards me. She spoke her first words, standing with her hands on her hips. Hands on her hips, she said, "The least you could do is welcome me at the front door." I replied, "The least you could do is not be a liar." Maybe my reaction seemed harsh, but I felt it was necessary. "Let's make a choice," I said. Keep arguing or have a real conversation. I gestured towards the salad I'd set out for Alice as she sat down. An awkward silence settled in. Logan, I've been struggling to find the right words to fix things, but I'm lost. I need your help. Alice, I've been trying to work through the dilemma. I've realized there's nothing I can say to make this better. Logan, think about our family. It'll be torn apart if you leave. Alice, you should have thought about that before you started doing questionable things. I didn't ask for this. I don't deserve it. I'm just trying to clean up the mess you created. I know it's a cliché, but it was never about love. I'm deeply ashamed of what happened between Alice and me. We finalized our divorce after 7 months, but we still get along at family events for the kids. I think Alice might still have feelings for me, but I'm not looking to reconcile. Whenever I feel a connection with Alice, I think of that compromising video she made with Larry, which makes it hard for me to trust her again. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story in the comments.